Welcome to another episode of Inside the Shift, and today we're going to talk about how footwear brands are changing how they sell products. And with me, I have in-house expert Mattias.
As always.
Nice, Mattias, back again in the cave. And I think this is a very interesting one because we have a lot to cover, because it is a big shift happening out there, and we are like in the middle of it with successes, with failure. Like, how are the brands, the footwear brands that we work with and other brands as well in the market changing the way they sell products?
They are doing it, they're going away from a static experience to a more dynamic and interactive experience. And historically, looking at the progress that we have done with our brands that we're working with the past 4 years, the focus has been about transforming their e-commerce experience. But now we're also starting to see a shift in the way they do their entire business, all of their processes that is around product visuals and product displays, regardless if it's whether from the factory to B2B and wholesale, to content production, to marketing and martech solutions and e-commerce.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking, and the transformation from 2D to 3D. And we're gonna jump into that process and like what we are doing, what we're learning, and especially what the clients are telling us and other brands that we are in discussion with, what they're trying to achieve. But if we stay on like the customer facing part, like you said, it's going from static to interactive to more immersive. Why?
It's still the fact that, you have physical stores where the engagement and time spent in the physical store is very much higher than compared to an online store. And we hear that it's because the offline experience is beating the online experience because it's more engaging, it's more interactable, it's more memorable. And that's like one of the main reasons why we see that the brands that we are working with are trying to do something with immersive 3D and XR on their e-commerce to mimic the offline store behavior, but online, to utilize new technologies and new experiences to make their consumers feel, squeeze, and really explore the product instead of just looking at it. I would say that that's the main reason why they're doing this. And of course, they have some commercial KPIs behind all of that, but that's the rationale behind.
Yeah, and I think if you have listened to this webinar/podcast before, I'm more in the earlier phase meeting with the clients. You're more on the later phase, but I think most of them say the same thing. Like they want to give their consumers a better experience. Like that's one thing. And also the shift from showing the consumer something and letting them explore on their own, that's also a big mindset shift. So what can you tell me about when they're, going 3D first and not having, how do they reason? Are they scared about doing this? Is this a potential like blocker, or how do they view that specific shift, especially in the beginning?
I would say that most of them are pretty open-minded, and everyone has some kind of testing approach. They start small, test it, and then scale it when they see the results. But I would say that I'm very grateful for the success that we have had with our concept 3D First and all of the applicable add-ons. And I think a lot of that success lies in the rationale because it makes so much sense. So I think every one of you who's watching this right now, you probably have one guy or girl who is responsible for looking at the data in Hotjar, the more qualitative data. And most of the time you see that you maybe lose 50, 75% as soon as you go below the fold. It's always below the fold where you explain the product. Above the fold, you show the product. Below the fold, you explain the product. But you lose maybe sometimes up to 75%. So when we come and present an alternative approach that you can have a more dynamic and engaging experience above the fold, where you also enrich it with data like annotations that can explain the technical highlights and features of a shoe or the dimensions of a size of a bag, then they're willing to try that because they all know how much of the scroll they drop on the website. So to answer your question in short, a little bit, but still open-minded because it sort of makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a good way of saying it, like, it makes sense. And then we also see the more and more brands adopt, like annotation one, dimension another. But I also think this is when you have the 3D asset, and now we go into the bigger picture thing, because the e-commerce, this is just one part. Marketing, wholesale.
Yeah.
Like it's these brands, the bigger brands, that their organization is super big. So in order to get these experiences, like we have done all the mistakes in the book for like everything, we will try stuff. But what are the brands that we talk to? How do they see this transformation? If we see like, we have our 2D processes today, now we're looking to a 3D process. Like, can you explain the steps that they are thinking about and what needs to be done in order to make that successful?
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about this on our way here, and I think you framed it very well. How it works right now, or how it has worked for certain brands, or the majority of brands, is that they look at this as an exciting opportunity. They do it for a handful of products, and they see some kind of indications that this is working for one reason or another. The problem is that this is an additional process and pipeline above already existing pipelines. So it was, to quote you, the 3D has to solve the 2D processes as well. And I think that was very well formulated, because if you are not thinking about the investment of 3D as a strategic approach, that you will change from when you do the shoe or bag in the factory to then being live on the website, everything that happens in between, then you will have multiple processes. And it might be worth it to have twice or thrice processes. It depends on what the KPI says and what the business case says. But most likely it would be the smarter choice to base everything from the same source. And as you said, I think we have learned the hard way. Maybe you can share a few perspectives on what we hear when we present this solution to bigger clients. I mean, they all just want to solve the Packshots thing first, right? Yeah,
but that's one thing that we have learned the last couple of months, discussion with some of the biggest brands in the world, and also it has to be the biggest brand. It's brands who turn over 20 million euros, 50 million euros. Like the problems are like the same, but it's just bigger when you have a big organization, because it's so global, it's moving part, different teams and the organization. But I think everybody is agreeing that if you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it at scale, there are certain things that needs to be in place. It doesn't make sense to send all of, like, if you have 5,000 shoes, you send it to a studio and get images, or you do it internally, and then you send it somewhere else, you get the 3D, and then we need to solve that. They need to be able to solve that problem with getting the pack shot they need in time, but also how do we now leverage the experience that we have?
Yeah.
Who should get them? Should we send them to our all the salespeople, all the distribution, like everything? How do we get this in our company, and that becomes the new standard?
Yeah.
There's also big planning with a lot of different people. So I think the thing that they are doing, and they're doing well, is they seeing this transformation as a long-term play, and then they start working at it in certain areas.
Yeah.
So not from one day to another, we changed the process. No. But we have the goal of changing the process, but there are a lot of things that need to be taken into account. All the images, they need to be good enough. They need to have the things that they need. The quality in the 3D needs to be on point. It needs to be fast loaded. Like, all of these things need to have a big checklist. But once you have that, then it's like, okay, where do we start? And that's often on the e-com, digital marketing, and getting more out of the asset, because we can paint the tree with, you have one digital asset, and then you solve so many different issues and problems. But we need to make sure that we can deliver everything, because otherwise it's broken, right?
100%.
And we know that Zalando is one that we know invest heavily in this type of processes. And like we have spent over 10 million euros on our own process.
Yeah.
So it's a really big shift, and the brands that we are talking to that really wants to do, they just think in way of processes.
Yeah.
Like, and then there are certain things, then you need to have a 3D model, you need to have distribution, you need to have all of these things, but how do we create that long-term process where we also are ready, let's say in 2 years' time, we're like, okay, Apple has launched the new goggles, we need to build our own store, and we want our clients to be able to visualize, then you need 3D models.
Yeah.
So it also puts them in a position where they can attack different opportunities. Because
there's a lot of qualities, like what you said, it's like a checklist. There's a lot of qualities that the end format needs to check off. Like, I don't know, everything from quality to lighting to angles, aspect ratios, experiences, that it loads fast, everything like that. But as soon as you have
connections with other systems, like
exactly, but as soon as you have validated that, then it makes sense, or it's easier to rewrite where in the process do we do this. Yeah. So we start with validating and all the qualities, and then once we know that everything is working, well, then we don't send the product 1 month ahead just to get the 3D on the website. Then we send it 9 months ahead from the factory to get the 3D model, to then base everything else on that. But there is not a single brand in our portfolio that started there.
No. But there are some that, like Gant is a really good example of a brand that get all of their footwear in 3D. They leverage with Packshots and like they get everything. So that's a good example. And like you said, we bring them up in a lot of different case studies. You know, save time, increase conversion, and all of these things. But it's the success is in the process.
Yeah,
that's the key area. And like we can talk about Gant for a long time if we're gonna do that, but there are some case studies on our e-com you can get or our site you can check out.
Yeah.
But it's that shift. When you see that shift, and also when you, if you have a let's call it a sales process where you talk to certain people and you know digital marketing, e-com and product and all of these, once they understand, okay, this is the opportunities. Then because they are expert in their area, and then they always see that we can do this and we can do that, and we can have our catalog with instead of just having images and text. Then we have QR codes. You can try on the shoes. You can explore them. So then they just like run with it.
Yeah.
That's where we need to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a meeting the other week, and I heard like a problem or like a potential opportunity that I haven't even thought of. And we have one brand that is very strong in France, or at least in the European market, and they are growing quite significant in the Middle East. And they don't have an organization there. They don't have distribution over there. So a big problem for them is the physical samples. It's simply not feasible to send physical samples to everyone. And it's difficult for their potential wholesalers and resellers to get a good feeling about the shoe. And we just had a broad talk about everything between heaven and earth. And he was formulating it like, wait, this does mean that I not only can have it on my e-commerce when we have launched the product ourselves on our D2C channels, I can also send them a digital sample. So when we are in a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Google Meet, I can actually conversate with him, and I can ask him to put up the shoe digitally, like in full AR, to almost feel and squeeze the shoe. And he formulated that that's a game changer for us. We have never seen AR like that in that early of the process, but that is a game changer for us because we can't simply send physical samples to everyone and we can't travel everywhere. And I haven't thought about that until he formulated it so well. So I think that's a very interesting use case of seeing it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different use cases. And if you take the example of like, okay, let's change the process. Once the products are done, the first thing that happens is they are scanned, or like we turn them into 3D.
Yeah.
Then they have a lot of different use cases, but that would mean that you need to also change a lot of processes.
Yeah.
And that's a big shift. And like I believe, and I think everybody who's working at Fibbl believes this is where we're heading. But like it's a massive step to take, and there is a lot of challenges, a lot of work, investments that need to be done. But in a few years' time, I think we will have more examples of putting 3D earlier in the process to have these type of use cases where you have never thought of before.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's natural. I think we see some of the brands that we have been working with for 2 to 3 years. I think we have maybe up to 20% of the entire portfolio. They have actually made these transformations like for real.
Yeah.
Like it's very deep. It's a part of the standard procedure. But it takes some time. Every organization is different. Some are more fast-paced. Some go a bit slower because it's complex. But everyone starts somewhere, and eventually you will take it step by step and be there where you have this as a powerful advantage.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that is on everybody's lips right now is AI.
Yeah.
And how, like, I think everybody thinks it's fun to sit and prompt, create images, and like it's a fun thing. But we just ran a test with 15 of our clients with the combination of photorealistic 3D models and AI. And can you just explain, because you are the one who's ran that project, can you just explain what have they done, and I can also add to some of the use cases that they have seen, which I think is very interesting. And I haven't thought of that before. But like, what have they done?
Yeah, so basically we found a new potential partner that reached out to us and have built this very beautiful tech that takes 3D models and generates AI images of it. We wanted to validate how this could solve problems for our clients. So we invited, I think it's actually 14 clients into the pilot, and each of them got access to the software for 2 weeks. They combined our tech, our 3D models, uploaded it into this software, and started to just prompt the shit out of it, basically, to do all kinds of content. I was surprised by the creativeness of the teams. And I think now 2 weeks later, 14 clients, maybe 140 models uploaded. I think we are looking at around 2,000 images that has been generated in 2 weeks. And it's not those 2,000 images where you see like 6 fingers or Will Smith has like spaghetti all over his hair, like AI was 2 years ago. It's actually good content. And some of the brands even reached out to me during the pilot asking like, hey, can we use this now on social media? We want to use this. And that was exceeding my expectations. For me, it was validating if this could be a potential thing for the future, but it turns out that the technology is already there and the brands actually want to use it. And I think you have a few stories of why and what kind of problems it solves.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our clients that, like, they just described they were so positively surprised, and this is a client that's very like clear in communication when they're not happy. So I took it like, okay, if they are happy, I just asked, okay, it's cool, it looks great, but what's the use case for it? So she explained that they have their lifestyle, images that they create. They spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and they look fantastic. And then they have the content they need to have, so Packshots, like all of these other things. But they have a gap with content they want, but they don't have the resources or time to produce. And they were like, this solves that problem for us, that we can create content using AI that is good enough to show our clients, to populate social media, to use in catalogs and other things. So I just thought of that I haven't thought about it in that sense before. More like, this is very cool. This is going to grow, like, for sure. But this is the use case we see.
Yeah.
And if it solves a real problem, like, the market will always tell you if you have a good product or not. And I think that the POC has validated, like you said, that they have an actual use case, because they don't ask to use it if they don't think it's good enough.
No, exactly.
And usually brands are very picky with, and it needs to look direct representation of the product, we know that when we produce the 3D assets as well, the quality needs to be there.
Yeah. Otherwise, it won't replace their current processes. And it's it was very fun to see a couple of brands actually posting these AI content live on social media. But I also know from the feedback and the discussions after the pilot that some have said that this is a game changer for us when it comes to taking the shoe to the market. I don't know how it is for everyone watching this, but most of the brands that I work with, they have between 3 to 4 weeks on them from when the shoes arrive from the factory to when they have to present it to the sales teams and they go to market with it. And there is not enough time for them to go to Paris and New York and create this kind of inspirational lifestyle content. But now all of a sudden you have a tool that can take you to all around the world with just a few prompts, and it's just a matter of how good the prompts are. So one of the brands that I talk with, they said like, we will begin using this to set a creative direction or inspire our sales team and our buyers what this shoe is made of. So they are going to open up new categories like shoes for work professionals, like gastronomy, for example, or medical care. They can now all of a sudden do a artificial photo shoot with people wearing their shoes in the hospitals or in the kitchens, and that's the way they can communicate around these products, even with that little time, with those 3 to 4 weeks. And that's pretty game changing because that hasn't been possible before for most of the brands.
Yeah, very interesting. And this is so new. I haven't heard this before, so
Maybe
I'm
I forgot to tell you before.
No, but like this is happening in real time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that also goes to show then when in the process are you creating the 3D assets? If you don't have the 3D assets, you can't do it. Like, so everything goes back to the changing process.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter where we're in the discussions. It's like, can we do it one step before?
The earlier you connect, the greater value.
Yeah.
As simple as that. But it's natural to not maybe right away jump onto the first step. So there might have to be an exploration phase. But basically the earlier you connect, the greater value.
Yeah. And also in the wholesale part and the B2B part, we know that that's a big business for a lot of the brands. What are the values when we are talking with the clients now? I'm like asking myself, but I'm asking you, what are the other values do they see with having immersive experiences as well as content, communicating with partners, wholesalers, retailers? What do you think? What do they say?
So we have a thing with the physical versus digital samples that I mentioned before, with the boundary or the threshold being like the physical location. We have the content generation to set like a feeling overall for the sales campaign. Then we also have one very strong case where we have actually also conducted another POC with a brand where they simply produce too much sometimes. They have overstock of things because they haven't been very sophisticated in the forecasting. So what we're doing now for, let's see, spring, summer 26, we are in October now, spring, summer 26. Then they are, fall, winter 27. I always make them up. Then we have basically made like a technical platform or like a site. And they're changing the way that they do their orders. So before they placed an order based on the last season's data and some trends. Now they are placing their order 4 weeks in advance of what they usually do. And they produce 3D models of the second round of samples, which historically has just been for internal use. So there will be some changes to the models that will change. And that's why it's only been presented internally and not externally up until now. But now they made 3D models out of that. They made them available on a platform, and they are inviting all of their wholesale accounts to actually go in and rate the styles, depending on how much they like it or how much they will think they will buy. And there's a rating system, and it will lead to a CSV basically, where they will get like a rating per model in combination with how much that account has budgeted to buy this year. and that will give them a number of how much they should produce everything. But the thing here, the real enabler, is that the shoe is in 3D, because they typically just show one side angle of the shoe when they go to market the very first time, this very specific brand, which they felt has hindered them to get high quality feedback of the styles, because you don't really get the full visibility of the shoe. So now with this and the rating system, we will see in a few weeks, but hopefully we can reduce the waste, and hopefully they can plan their production and save some money better on that.
Another use case for these experiences, because another thing that we have seen is, once if you are a brand and you have 3D models, you have all the experiences, 3D viewer, virtual try, and you have implemented this on your site as well. We also see that the brands can share this as well, that they share. You see it as another piece of content.
Yeah.
If they share images with retailers, like today, now they can just share videos, images, virtual try-on experience. Like it's shareable as well, but this is
readjustable.
Yeah. So this is also something that we talk with brands, but often very much further down the line. Once they're like, we're gonna scale this to all of our assortment, and then we've seen some good examples in the last couple of months where brands share the experience and also then controls the experience, how their products are visualized at their partners.
Exactly. Yeah, like Elton is one customer of ours, which we're very proud to be working with. We've been doing that for 2 to 3 years, and we talked a lot about what they're doing on their e-commerce, but also in the marketing and at exhibitions and fairs. Just the other week, they went live, or not they, but the biggest creation distributor and reseller of workwear went live with the same technology on their own website. I think we can show it here, which is very nice. It looks like exactly the same. Elton can control the experience. They can use the same technology. They can highlight the unique selling points, the annotations, everything like that. So it's like the same creation. Elton took the process of creating it and making everything accessible, but others who also sell that same product can reuse the content as well. And same goes for other type of content. So if they want to have product images, but they have another set of angles or background or something like that, it's still reusable. There's no need for reshoots because it's just a digital process, so you can easily adjust it.
Yeah, and if you're listening this long, then it's like this is very wide, it's very broad. What you can do,
but the thing is also, like, maybe our viewers can help us here, because I think we have learned the hard way, and even we internally struggle with how should we talk about us, because it's so wide. There's so much things you can do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I feel like for the brands I'm working with, there is not one person or one role that is responsible at this kind of deep operational level to ensure this kind of efficiency across all of the departments. So everyone is used to a clear handover. Product gets designed here, produced here, hand over to content teams here, hand over to the sales teams here, e-commerce, marketing. And everyone has their own goals and KPIs that they track on, and everyone sees how this could benefit their individual processes. But it's almost like when you come with this great big smörgåsbord, as we say in Swedish, which means like a
smorgasbord,
like a big buffet of food. It's like they don't know where to start or what to pick, because it has such a great impact on the individual, but it also has on the entire thing, which makes it a big thing. So I think maybe one of the biggest risks here, if you're looking into doing a transformation like this, is that you need to align internally across the departments and maybe have one or more owners that drives this transformation, not only for your specific vertical, but for all of the 4 to 5 different verticals that we talked about, and maybe even a 6th that we don't know of yet.
Yeah, Joshua. I had Joshua Young on my podcast, and this was what he talked about. Like you can't work in silos if you're going to do this successfully. You need to have that clear goal, and everybody's working together across departments.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's the hard part. But I think the goal is to change different processes to one process where you start with a 3D file.
Yeah.
And that's what we know give the most output. And usually, like if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, how does this work? Then I would just recommend you contacting me, sending us 5 products. We will produce everything, take a look at it, the images, the videos, the experiences. That is usually how we start the discussion, because if the brand doesn't think that the quality is good enough, then there's no discussion to be had.
Yeah.
Usually that's not the problem for us. But just to have in mind that there is an opportunity, and we would love to talk to you about that. That shift from 2D to 3D. But I think we see some more cases, and before I'm going to wrap up soon, not to be too long, but I think it's interesting to some of the discussion that we have with the brands as well is the changing in the market, changing with the generations. Like Gen Z is soon going to have 50% of the spending power. They are digital natives. These type of technologies are not like an add-on or strange for them. They have grown up with TikTok, Snapchat, and all of these technologies, and that is also one part of the discussion for brands to how do we engage with that age group, because they're getting older. I'm a millennial, and I'm getting up there in age. Like it's sad. But how do you see also the market? You have Meta, you have Apple, like everybody's exploring its goggles, Vision Pro, and that is also a big part of the discussion. How are we going to cater to a digital native generation? What are we going to offer them? Why are they going to come to our place? And the product discovery, social media. What do you think about that part?
For me, I think everyone agrees that the world is going in that direction, especially since we see that generation even shops and check out at TikTok. And now, just recently, we see OpenAI doing their own integration with Shopify, and they have one click of a button, and they don't even enter the website. So we all know that it's gonna go there one day from another. So just making sure to stay up to date, you need to think about reusability, that you have a reusable workflow, scalable workflow, and a reusable asset. So I think naturally it will become less about one-offs and more about ensuring that everyone has a foundation to work off. And I mean, Gen Z, 10 years from now, it doesn't even matter. I mean, we have brands whose audiences is plus 50, plus 60. Medical class shoes, other type of shoes. We see that even they are interacting with this technology. It may feel something technical. It may feel like another world. But at the end of the day, it is just what they're used to be doing in physical stores, but it is online. So I wouldn't even be so hooked up on the next generation. I would actually look at what we have today and just replicate the offline experience but online, and then thinking about the other processes to do it more efficiently. I mean, everyone can understand that it's better to have one process and multiple use cases instead of 4 different silos. So it's just about exploring how it could work for each individual brand.
Yeah, and then you mentioned having that base. Is that consistency you mean as well?
Yeah.
Across the brand and across categories, as we know as well?
Yeah, we have some brands that starts out and they do maybe 3D on their e-commerce for 25 or 50% of the assortment. And then they see themselves for one of their customers even emailed to customer support and they said, hey, I could spin around this product on this product, but not this product. So it should be a base, it should be a foundation, but it should make sense for each individual brand to present their products in that way and to implement this as a strategic capability and approach into the processes. It's the new photo. It's the same. It's just another approach, and you just tweak your process a little bit.
Yeah, it's time for a change.
Yeah, for the current generation and for the upcoming generation.
For everybody. We will leave you guys in that note. Hopefully you got something good out of this conversation. Always a pleasure, Mattias, taking the time and discussing all these things. And like we said, we're all in the middle of everything right now, but this is where we see it going. If you have any questions, reach out to me or Mattias on LinkedIn, or maybe there's an email address here somewhere. And then we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.
See you. Bye-bye.